Rick Finley, you guys all know, is National Food Service Account Director for Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. So, Rick, why don't you come on and talk to us about, the cheese experts that we have with us today?
Well, Kevin, thank you very much. And we have so many great cheese producers in the state of Wisconsin, and we have brought 3 of our best. So I just want to thank and welcome our friends from Winona Cheese, from Carr Valley, and also from AgriPure. We've really brought a broad scope of folks on. So just thrilled to death to have them on, and they'll be able to go through their products in a little bit.
Gerald, we're going to come to you now.
Awesome to be here with everyone. Just a little background. Hi, everyone. My name is Gerald Oksanen, and I'm a researcher with Datassential, and we're a food service market research company based in Chicago. Now, I'm going to cover a lot of ground today. I got quite a bit packed into this, so we'll probably go a little fast, but if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to fire away. I actually had this slide at the end, but I'm like, this is a perfect one to start with. We asked on this slide to consumers, why do you eat cheese? And here we see the top 3 reasons. And, more than anything else, it's because it tastes great. It's also versatile. It's quintessential component in many dishes, but more than anything else, it comes down to the taste. Now, one thing I think that's really interesting here too is what's not really selected. And particularly, we don't really eat cheese for health reasons. It's more of an indulgence, and that'll, kind of come into play a little bit later. But moving on here, we're going to look at some broad menu trends using Datassential's tool, Menu Trends. And just a little bit of background on that. This is representative of all restaurants in the United States, what we're about to see. To kick this off, we see that cheese is ubiquitous on menus. More than 9 out of 10 menus in the United States have some variety of cheese on it. And, as the slide says, Parmesan is the most popular variety. But Parmesan and cheddar are interesting because actually you could say that most menus feature these 2 cheeses. A few other things I want to point out here: Parmesan, cheddar, mozzarella, blue cheese, and American, the top 5 specific variety of menu cheeses, have a massive menu presence, but they're still growing on menus. And, just from a statistical perspective, when you have a larger base, it's harder to get that growth, but those 5 are still doing it. And we take a little break in our chart here, but we almost get down to the top 100 varieties of cheese on menus. And, I think what that illustrates is that there's just so much variety in the types of cheeses that make it to menus. Okay, and if you're familiar with Datassential, this slide will look familiar. This is what's called our menu adoption cycle. It's basically a project or product life cycle from like its inception to just being everywhere. From left to right, we see that items in green are inception here. They can be found in places like, ethnic grocery stores, ethnic restaurants, fine dining restaurants. They're kind of like the new things hitting the menus. And then the cheeses in ubiquity on the other end here in brown, you can get those just about anywhere. But I think, for the average food service decision maker, probably when it comes to innovation, we're going to be most interested in the red and purple cheeses here. Specifically taking a look at the red cheeses here, a lot of cool trends, but we see a lot of global influences, particularly upscale global influences with Roquefort and Gruyere, and I'm probably going to butcher so many cheese names here, so I apologize. But another interesting one I want to point out, and I could see this almost getting some groans, but we're going to look at a little bit more in depth, is vegan cheese. And that might be a weird one because, like, is that even a variety of cheese technically? But we'll look a little bit more into that. Okay, so on this slide, we see the fastest growing dishes on menus paired with cheese. And, we see a lot of trends jump out here. I mean, for one, avocado toast with cheese is up 5,000% on menus. And, that is pretty incredible. But thinking back to what I said on one of the first slides, it's got a very small base. So there's not, it's easier to hit those numbers, but still pretty remarkable. But just in general, a lot of global dishes on here, a lot of regional dishes on here, growing with cheese, and some plant-based and vegan trends making its way into it as well. Okay, so kind of looking more at some menu trends here. From left to right, we see our mega trends on the left here, and these are kind of like the big themes happening in the cheese space. Of course, the green ones are like emerging inception trends, and then the brown and purple, they're more widespread. And then, in the middle here, we see the most menued individual varieties of cheese, and we saw some of this on the few slides back, but get a little bit more detail. But I think what's most interesting on this one is the rightmost column, and that shows the fastest growing varieties of cheese on menus in the United States. And vegan cheese, it's the top growing one. Pretty incredible to see the growth number there. But we also see tons of global cheeses, Mexican cheeses, Italian cheeses, some regional cheeses like cheese curds and pimento cheese. But another one that I think is really interesting, and I'm probably going to butcher their name, is halloumi. And I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I'm assuming that's how you say it. But very interesting to see that. I believe that's a Middle Eastern cheese. And I came across this slide and I wanted to share it, include it today. I thought this was a very cool example of how halloumi could be used in a application that's really familiar to all of us. So this is an Egg McMuffin with grilled halloumi on it. And that, kind of reminds me of an Egg McMuffin with saganagi. I don't know how close that could be, but this is essentially a McDonald's dish that's available in Cyprus. So sadly, we don't have this here, but good use of halloumi, I think, that I thought was interesting. And I think their headquarters downtown also featured it at one point as well. But just to see some more menu items featuring cheese in action, this is actually my favorite slide that I'm going to share today. Here we see 3 dishes from large chains in the United States that feature cheese. And these dishes we ran in our tool called Scores. And that tool basically benchmarks consumer affinity towards all limited time offers offered at restaurants. And what's interesting about these 3 dishes is that they all kind of accomplish something different. And, I just want to say, outright, I'm completely impartial. I'm not saying any of these dishes are better than the others. They all look delicious, but they all do different things. Looking at our croque madame here from First Watch, it's got a high uniqueness. It's got, melted cheddar and Monterey Jack, and consumers think it's unique. It's an interesting type of sandwich with cheese and a ton of things going on it, but the purchase intent for it isn't as high. So, people think it's more unique than their likelihood to purchase it. But then we flip that formula around to this pizza from Godfather's Pizza in the middle, super high purchase intent, because who doesn't love, a good pepperoni pizza? But again, it's not that unique. This item on the right here kind of ticks all the boxes because with queso from the quesadilla burger from Taco Bueno, it's unique and many people would like to buy it. And, kind of what's going on here is that it's a lot of familiar components packaged in a fun way that's still accessible to consumers. All right, and I keep prefacing this. I don't know how everyone feels about vegan cheese, but I thought it'd be good to look at. Important to keep on our radars nonetheless, but absolute immense growth over the last decade on menus. And actually, I didn't see this until I included this slide in this presentation, but of all the ingredients, flavors, beverages, foods, cuisines, all these keywords we have in our system, this is in the top percentile, the top 100% of its potential to grow on menus in the future. We can see that using our algorithms in the next 4 years, it's expected to double its footprints on menus. And what really stuck out to me even more so than that is just look at the fast casual projections there. That's nearly, I don't know exactly, that's like 1 in 6 fast casual restaurants projected to have vegan cheese over the next 4 years. So very fascinating. Interesting because is it even a cheese? But I just wanted to share. Real quick too, we'll look at how consumers feel about vegan cheese. We can see, heavy skews to vegans and vegetarians, Gen Z a little bit, the health conscious. I was saying, too bad we don't have cat people on here as one of the slices, because I could feel that indexing pretty high too, but we didn't ask that question. But overall, half of people know what vegan cheese is, little less than a fifth have tried it, and about 1 in 10 love or like it. So about half the people that have tried vegan cheese before like it, essentially. All right, but real quick, and I'll go through these next few slides pretty quickly. Looking at this cheese data, it reminds me a lot of like seafood and sandwiches, which I thought was really cool, because you can go anywhere in the United States and you're going to find cheese on a menu. But outside of like those like classics like American, mozzarella, Parmesan, the types of cheese are just going to vary considerably by region. And I grabbed these just 4 random cheeses just to kind of demonstrate that. This is looking at data from all independent restaurants in the United States, scraping their menus. So there's no chains in here to kind of throw off the regionality. Which types of cheeses index highest in different regions? And we can see, beer cheese dominates the Midwest, except for the Midwest best state there, my state, Illinois. Queso, very prevalent in the Southwest, but it also goes up north there, and kind of mirrors the map where tornadoes can touch down, it looks like. So I don't know if there's a correlation there, but Cotija, very prevalent on the West Coast, ricotta, more prevalent on the East Coast. And actually it's interesting too, Cotija, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, not in West Virginia at all. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But all right, just some more detail here on regionality and types of cheeses. These are the cheeses, the varieties of cheese that index the most in these different regions. And, this is something we could look at for a long time, but I'll just kind of just point out a few things. I actually had to Google if Provolone was a cheese in the Midwest, because I'm like, is that provolone? Did it get, I don't know, cut off there? But it is a variety of cheese. A lot of Southwestern cheeses in the South, unsurprisingly, and a lot of Italian cheeses in the Northeast. But I'll just kind of go through these next few slides. We only got like 3 more, so we still have time for questions. Here are some consumer and operator insights. And we saw one slide from this in the beginning, but I just want to quickly preface, everything we're about to see is from 2020. We had our cheese and dairy keynote released then, and we have another one coming in a few months, but this data is a little bit old. But it still was conducted post-COVID, so I don't think anything directionally would have changed too much. And if it did, I'll call it out. All right, so here we ask consumers, amongst all these different food types, how essential is it for cheese to be featured in these? And right off the bat, we see most American consumers say that I want cheese in all of these different types of dishes. Almost 9 out of 10, it's essential cheeses in pizza, 4 out of 5 burgers and sandwiches. I think for me, what's most interesting here is that 2/3 of appetizers, consumers say, regardless of what it is, they want cheese in it. And many appetizers wouldn't even make sense, but people love their cheese, and this shows it well. Okay, and a few attributes here. We ask consumers, would you pay more for these attributes, or would you be more likely to buy but not necessarily pay more? I think that, on this slide, most consumers overall, if they see these terms associated with cheese, regardless of what the terms are, they're more likely to buy them, and a good amount are more likely to even pay for them. So if you're able, if your cheese has any of these characteristics and you're able to call it out, all the better. Now, I kind of undermine this right at the beginning by saying we only eat cheese for indulgence and not so much for healthy perspectives here. But when consumers, when they think of what constitutes a healthy cheese, it's basically cheeses without added, things added to it, and then also things that are rich in good things like calcium and vitamins and protein. And again, I'm completely impartial as a researcher, but I thought it was interesting to see how low probiotic is, because I personally would think that would be the best one here, but I don't know. Okay, and then here we ask consumers, when was the last time you had cheese when conducting our research? And we can see that, the majority had it within the past day. Virtually, no consumer, only 2% of consumers didn't have cheese within the past month, which kind of mirrors our vegan population. So overall, we eat cheese very frequently, Gen Z a little less, but still eating it the same frequency within the month span. Last slide here. so we have time for questions. We asked operators in 2020, what is your biggest challenges when it comes to menuing cheeses? High costs, fluctuating costs are the biggest thing, but then also to some extent, just the inventory requirements, which I think makes sense with, different pack sizes and, like expirations, can overlap and all this. But the note I want to leave on here is that only 3% of food service operators say that cheese is not a good fit for their operation. So basically all restaurants see the value of cheese, and that is the note I will end on. Thank you, everyone.
Gerald, thank you. Great presentation.
We queued up Winona First. Brent, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, you bet. We are third generation cheesemakers and cheese graders. So we've got some history behind us that we have nationwide representatives and nationwide partner plants under cheeses, typical cheddar, Monterey Jack, pepper jack. We're just happy to connect with anybody that's looking for cheese.
Brent, thank you very much. And again, I know we sent samples to the group, and certainly feel free to use those. Next up, we've got Carr Valley.
So a little bit of history about Carr Valley. So Carr Valley is currently owned by Sid Cook. He's a fourth generation cheesemaker. His family started making cheese in Wisconsin in 1883. We take great pride in at Carr Valley is the amount of awards that we've won. Our cheesemakers are very, very proud of it. To date, we're over 800 national and international awards for our cheeses. We've won some big ones.
We sent 5 different products, so I'll start talking about the bread cheese first. But bread cheese is a Finnish cheese. It was kind of traditionally a breakfast cheese served, and it is made with reindeer milk. But that translates to cheese bread, so that's where we got the name for it, and we trademarked that.
The next cheese that I'll take you through is our crema casa. So our crema casa is actually one of our mistakes. So Sid was making Nevada Fontina and the agitator stopped working. So he took it was the high fat milk separated to the top of the vat, the low fat milk separated to the bottom. So he took the high fat milk and made the crema casa, and then the low fat milk, he made Swedish farmer's cheese.
The third one is our menage. So this is a mixed milk cheese. Sid was one of the first cheesemakers in the country to make a mixed milk cheese back in the 80s. This is an awesome one for cheese boards. It's really great for customers and consumers who haven't had mixed milk cheeses before. It's an awesome one to start with.
The next one that we sent is our apple smoked cheddar. So this one we make in a 12-pound wheel at our Laval plant. We send it over to our warehouse where we put it through a cold smoky process for about 24 hours. After that, we let it sit for a few weeks, and then we'll hand rub all of the wheels with paprika.
The last one that we have is our wildfire blue. So we make a pretty extensive blue cheese line. This is one of the most popular ones that we make. So it's our just traditional blue cheese Glacier Point blue recipe with all cow's milk, but we add Italian pepperoncinos in it. So just at the back of your throat, you'll get a hint of heat. It's definitely still very Midwest friendly heat.
Dave, Ellie, thanks, guys. And then last up, our friends from AgriPure.
Marty Pullen, I am Director of Food Service Sales for AgriPure. I'm just going to take you quickly through a presentation. AgriPure is a cooperative based in Canada. We operate a little bit differently in the US, but our main focus really is the high quality cheeses. And I use mozzarella again as an example there. As an operator, if I'm a pizza operator, I certainly want my mozzarella to perform the same way Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, every single day. We are going to produce again this year over 1 billion pounds of cheese in our 7 facilities across the country. We had 4 samples that we sent. We had whole milk mozzarella, we had the smoked provolone, a sharp cheddar, and our feta. I would recommend starting with the whole milk mozz. That product is coming out of our Luxembourg facility. I would move to our sharp cheddar after that. And then you can pick between the smoked provolone or the feta. Which one you want to end there. Obviously, the feta is going to end with a very lipolytic flavor to it, but obviously the smoked provolone is going to have that smoke to it. And you'll find that our smoke is very mild, maybe in comparison as to others, where our smoke is intended for the food service market versus a retail setting.
Again, we sent you just some of the 600 or so varieties of cheese, and I'll turn it back over to Kevin. But if there is something that you're looking to put on your menu, we can help. We can get you samples of product to let you test it, taste it, touch it, and all of that.
smoked cheeses, you know, I know they've been around for a long, long time. I'm a huge fan. You know, is that a growth area, you think? Gerald, you may answer that as well in some of your research.
I think you've seen growth. I can't say this for sure from my days at AgriPure, but I'll go back to my days with DFW. You know, we saw smoked as a trend at the time that continued to come, especially in the retail space, probably more so than on the food service side at that time anyway. That's not to say that you wouldn't see, you know, on a charcuterie board, a cheese and meat type setup where you have some smoked cheeses there. But, you know, there are companies that do exist today solely they came out to make smoked styles of cheese. So I don't know what the data specifically looks like exactly today. Maybe Gerald can allude to that, but we did see that growth over the years, and I think there is still demand for it out there.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago at this point, I did some research specifically on smoked cheeses, and I think it was like really popular then. But it was interesting going through this data. I didn't really see it come up too much. So I'm not exactly sure.
Unless anybody else has something to add on that, I'll just make a funny joke. The cows don't know to slow down on the milk production. So it's like, hey, come on, let's make this happen.
Exactly.
Well, we're at our time. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a great presentations. I want to thanks to all of our members and sponsors that have been here with us for the hour. And of course, without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do these things. And without our members, we wouldn't exist. So thanks again to all of you for being here.